Hello, welcome to this latest episode of Smart Coffee Break, the productivity podcast brought to you by Nestlé Coffee Partners. In this podcast series, we're looking at how we work, what makes us productive, and how we're going to collaborate in the future. My name is Jeremy Meyerson. I'm a writer, academic, and director of Work Tech Academy, and I'll be your guide to the new world of work as some people prepare to return to the office, others continue to work from home, and all of us try to figure out what happens next. Today, I want to talk about those planned and unplanned encounters in the workplace, those casual interactions around the water cooler or the coffee machine, and why they matter so much to our productivity. To help me explain the secrets of the serendipitous encounter is my special guest, Kristi Woolsey, an American architect, behavioural scientist, and associate director of Boston Consulting Group. Kristi, let's start by talking about the differences between planned and unplanned encounters. What are the differences from a behavioural point of view?
We know that many times innovation and growth, new ideas, come from things intersecting that we did not anticipate to intersect, right? And so when I set out to have a meeting with you, I've already anticipated what that meeting will be, and it will likely play out in the way I expected, right? If on my way to meeting with you, I run into someone or something or some piece of information that I did not plan on, then suddenly there may exist a juxtaposition that was not part of my thinking that makes me see things differently, or connects the dots between two previously unconnected ideas. And so engineering serendipity has been part of the workplace for quite a bit, where we deliberately put two departments next to each other, having them sharing a coffee or a teapot so that they will need to interact. One of the critical roles that the physical office plays in the future of hybrid work is this idea of providing opportunities for having those unplanned interactions, the interactions that we did not set out to have, but will allow us to connect the dots between seemingly unrelated things and to innovate.
So this is a very interesting science, and you've actually put it into practice in your New York office, where Boston Consulting Group came up with a collision coefficient, a way of measuring these serendipitous encounters. Why did you decide to do that in that particular office, and what were the results?
One of the things that we felt was really important in our offices is to have the opportunity to run into as many other people as possible. Right? So can we increase the number of collisions that we would typically have in an office? So our New York office, we were moving into a building that had 6 floors, and we know that when people get on the elevator, they all face the same direction and they rarely talk to each other, right? This is not good for unplanned collisions. And so we ended up doing some things like putting, wide open staircases between floors to make it really easy to kind of continue a conversation as you move from place to place. The main landing floor has a large kind of coffee lounge space, rather than the formal reception desk, so that you're basically entering into a cafe. And so we wanted those kind of collisions. We also wanted to measure the collisions. And so we worked with Human Eyes, who has the data collection devices that hang around your neck, do not track conversations, but they'll track how often we are around each other. And we tracked the number of collisions in our old office and the number of collisions in our new office. And many of the kind of physical space moves that we made did, in fact, increase the number of collisions. Those collisions and the relationships that come out of them are so important that we know that planning around collisions is an important part of creating the floor plan.
That's a very interesting strategy. And if you look at the academic literature in this area, there's a lot of talk of workplace attractors, which pull people through a space, whether it's an open kitchen, a coffee point, or a water cooler, and enable people to congregate. How do you think this is going to play out in a post-COVID environment where safety, order, and a phased return to the office may be the priority?
One is transitioning to post-COVID, and the other is post-COVID, right? And I think in post-COVID, we're going to go back to those destinations, the attractors. I mean, you can think of it almost like a shopping mall where we put the anchor stores that'll pull you through. It's the same. The office has its own kinds of anchors that will pull you in particular directions. And if we place those anchors in the right ways, we can get those collisions happening. And I think that post-COVID, when we're truly post-COVID, we're going to be right back there because we know that that works. And it drives productivity, innovation, affiliation, collaboration. There's all kinds of science behind that. In the transition to post-COVID, where we're still trying to be a little bit of social distance, a little bit of masking, who can come in, how many people, what can I not touch? I think that's where it's going to be quite difficult. What we are working on with a number of our clients is the idea of team norms and rituals. So I'm not designing for 1,000 people to be in the office 5 days a week. I'm going to take this particular team and we're going to be in the office Monday and Wednesday because the people I collaborate with, the people that I really need to innovate with, and we're going to agree as a team that all of our key team meetings will be on these 2 days a week or these 3 days a week so that we can come in on those days. And then maybe there are other teams that come in on other days. And then that lets us do a bit more of the kind of reduced population and distancing that will help us through the transition.
The kind of design strategies that you're talking about will probably be well known to architects and to management consultants, but do the general core of businesses get the message too about unplanned encounters?
People in general tend to think of the social interaction as fluff, right? It's the frosting on the cake. We don't have to, if we have to get rid of something, let's get rid of the social interaction. But there was actually a study done that looked at more than 800 research papers and projects about productivity, and found that the number one correlating factor for team productivity was social cohesion, right? So it seems that if you want your people to be more productive, that social interaction, this building social cohesion, is a critical piece of that. We were actually working with a client that happened to be a beverage company, an alcoholic beverage company, and in their offices, they actually have a bar in every office. And the bar is, serves coffee up until a certain hour and then serves their own products after that. And we were looking at real estate footprint reduction. And one of the immediate suggestions was, well, we could get rid of the bar. And my reaction was like, oh my gosh, no. Like post-COVID, like the bar may be the most important thing that you have in there. Right. It's not serving, it's not the printer room. It's not the conference room. It's not serving the very practical functions, but it's serving the human behavior function of building that social cohesion. In our new hybrid future, people will come to the office for connection, collaboration, and affiliation. And the most important spaces for those are going to be these social spaces where you can have more of both planned and unplanned interactions.
During the pandemic, Kristi, you identified 4 typologies of hybrid office worker. What conditions do you think will make them more productive?
The 4 types range from someone who literally touches equipment and has to be in the office, to people in the middle that have different levels of clarity around the process and collaboration, to people who can be fully remote, that they're individual contributors. And I think across the board, the the main thing that people need to be more productive is the right setup, the right equipment, whether it's physical equipment or ways to log in. But in terms of building that social cohesion, they also need those points of connection, right? So we need to plan some in-person events, even for the fully remote people. And we need to make ways for people to connect with each other, whether it's a water cooler chat channel, or 5 minutes at the beginning of every meeting, which is set aside for personal sharing, so that we build that social fabric, whether we're in the office or not.
Is there a demographic dimension to this issue? Because I've read a lot of research which suggests that younger people are more eager to get back to the office because they want to build a network.
What we are finding is that younger people are willing to participate in planned social events in greater numbers, even when there is no work benefit. And when we're dealing with an older demographic, more senior stakeholders, they're not going to come into the office for a happy hour, but they will come into the office for a something launch followed by a happy hour, right? So depending on the demographic, the older demographic seems to want some work content along with the socialization, where a younger demographic is very happy to just have the social.
In a nutshell, what advice would you give to companies who want to step up the serendipitous encounter?
What we're finding in this hybrid future of work is that carrots are being better received than sticks. Free lunch on Tuesdays or some other kind of activity or event are successfully drawing people into the office in order to promote those serendipitous encounters. And those are the in-person encounters. There are also a robust use of a chat platform and a water cooler channel that will do the same thing in digital space. In the hybrid future, we're going to need a physical strategy that includes attractors, not just rules, and a digital strategy that allows people to serendipitously discover other things that are going on, people they might not have thought about.
Well, Kristi Woolsey, Associate Director of Boston Consulting Group, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. And this idea of workplace attractors, pulling people through a space, engineering serendipitous encounters, and in the process, influencing the productivity of both teams and individuals is a very important message to take away. Thanks for talking to us today from Pittsburgh, and thank you everybody for listening to this episode of Smart Coffee Break.
For more information on how coffee can help productivity in your workplace, contact Nestlé Coffee Partners or visit our Smart Coffee Hub on the link provided to download the playbook.